So this post is called Rock Bottom Liberation, and it's inspired by a number of things, but one of them was a comment in a post I made somewhere like last week or something on Facebook, where I was asking why did some people who were more progressive, why is it that they seem less likely to share some of the things that are very insightful. They can kind of share it in an insular way. Not everyone, but I noticed it. Sometimes I would come across a post and I would be like, oh, wow, this makes a lot of sense. And I would go to share it. And then it would just be to their own friends or to their like kind of closed community. And I know that as a person who grew up in a more strict kind of conservative evangelical kind of worldview, and then was invited to leave, that I was out in the wilderness on my own and stumbled into the awareness of progressive Christianity simply because I went to seminary and was paying tens of thousands of dollars to discover that something that had been around for a long time existed, but that they, I guess I would say, didn't do a really good job marketing themselves. I don't know what to say. So I kind of put that out there. And then someone made a comment that I've been reflecting on about how they sometimes don't put things out there because they're not trying to influence people. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it came down to the idea that they didn't want to get in the way of some people hitting their rock bottom. And I really kind of resonated with that because in my life, I've known a lot of people who've struggled with substances and other challenges that seem to only change when they hit rock bottom. And I personally have tried to avoid finding myself in any rock bottom situation, and I also have avoided being in any kind of addictive behavior for the most part, except for religion. And it just hit me yesterday that I think I am at the rock bottom of my own journey when it comes to religion, specifically Christianity, and some other things. But the thing that triggered this thought was I was dropping my kid off to school, and I saw a person in a pickup truck with a gigantic Trump flag, and they were Latino. And one of them was wearing like a balaclava kind of situation, and he and his partner was a woman. And then I saw them, and saw the thoughts that were rising in my consciousness, and it was just like they were pulling into a largely Latino neighborhood near the school that's relatively poor. And I was just like, why is this person a Trump supporter, especially given everything that's been going on? Why would they still rock this flag when they've been seeing people that look like them getting snatched up? And I'm a pretty observant person. So I saw when the person got out of their vehicle, they walked around. And this is kind of actually kind of tender or sweet. He got out of his vehicle, walked around and opened the door for his partner, the woman, and let her out. And that was, some old school chivalry type S. And then you could tell that he had this air about him of like he was being a man. And it really was, I don't know, kind of made me want to puke. But it made me want to puke because you could tell in his body that he was a caricature of a person. You could tell in his body that he had in his mind an idea of what a man was, and that he was going to be that thing for that woman, and he was going to play that role. And you could also tell that she was playing that role. And I shouldn't care, but for a second I did. And then I asked myself, why do I care? Why do I care that this man is probably a self-hating Mexican who supports Trump, and his wife is probably also a self-hating Mexican, and they think that somehow having this flag is going to give them some adjacency to whiteness, and probably feel some kind of way about other brown people, people like themselves. And I know enough from my family being married into Latino families. And obviously you can tell by my name that I have a background that is not American black, but that's on my dad's side. Um, so I've been in these conversations since I was a kid with this kind of crap. And I realized that, I care, one, because it was something that was intimate for me. But I also wanted people, I have this thing inside of myself where I want people to see themselves as beloved creatures. I want them to see themselves as the beloved of God. And why do I give a crap about it though? That's the question. And I was started wondering about that all day. And then right after I saw them, I saw this um Latina police officer that I've seen several times who also kind of embodies somewhat of a caricature of a person. And you can tell that she kind of wishes she was a white dude, and I don't want to say that, but and she probably would not like for me to say that, but you can tell. I've been around it enough. I've grown up in white supremacy enough, and I've been very curious about my life as it's unfolded and the things I've been exposed to, the things that I've had the opportunity to be in conversations about. And I really honestly don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm a curious person. I don't know if it's circumstantial, because some of it is. I so happen to have an immigrant dad that married a black woman who then broke up with my mom because his brother told him that he made a mistake in marrying a black person. And he should probably marry a white person because otherwise he is like diminishing his race, because my dad had some whiteness in him. And all this craziness. And so my dad abandoned us, married a blonde haired, blue eyed white lady, and went about his business and moved to Mississippi. And then I got to hang around with white people at a very early age, going back and forth between the black neighborhood and the white neighborhood, and also having Latino family members who loved me and wanted me to not think of myself as black. And then I would say I was black, and they would say, "Why you want to be black so bad?" And I was like, "Because I was born black." And they said, "Well, you ain't really black because your dad's Portuguese, he's from Cape Verde, and all this other crap, and all the different things." And I met throughout my life a bunch of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans who, like, because of my name, they'll think I'm one of them, and then they'll say something stupid. And and I've met white people who will see me and start off with the racist feelings, and they hear my name and they start getting curious and open up to me right after they were already shut down. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. And it's depressing, it's sad, it's disgusting, it's pathetic, all those things. And it's the only world I've ever known. And that's where the rock bottom part kind of hits. Yesterday, I said, man, why do I care about this? Why do I care if people see themselves as beloved? I've been blessed, I guess I would say, that I have always felt beloved by God, even in the face of abuse, molestation, exes cheating on me, bosses treat me like crap, like all sorts of stuff. I've been exposed to all those things, but because I knew that I was inherently loved by whatever loves and whatever love is, I could just sense it, that I've always been able to get back up and say, okay, well, that was an experience. Let me just get up and learn from it. And I've had death, like my brother getting murdered, all kinds of things. But love has always carried me through, or I'm super delusional. One or the other. I don't know, but at least my delusion is about love. And I've been thinking about it and, trying to figure out, like, how do I navigate this space? I have friends from all walks of life, people with whom I've had disagreement. And lately I've been kind of kicking people out of my life because they keep saying things that don't match what they say they believe and want me to co-sign it. And I just won't do that. And so I'm just like, hey, well, guess I can't be in your life anymore. And that's just how it is. Hey, Robert. But basically, I've just been really looking at my own rock bottom. And I think that if I had a rock bottom, it would be as it pertains to um, religion and to the idea that that I lived in a special time. Like, I thought for a long time, like, well, this is the modern age. We have enough information. We have enough technology. We have enough exposure. If we want to know different people, they're not far away. We can actually do better. But then at the same time, we aren't that different from any other time in history. And I realized that there's probably some kind of arrogance to think that I was born in a special time where we had enough sense to do things that were consistent with what we profess, especially when it pertains to Christianity. But the reality is that has not been my experience. My experience is, yes, I've been around a lot of Christians, so that's probably why the worst people I've known in my life are Christians. But there's a few good people like this man here, Rob Stewart, who's also a great Christian. So there's that too, and an intelligent and informed one at that. But many people aren't. And that's been my whole life. And when I was younger, I thought it was me because I was just kind of studying on my own and thought like, oh, I must be getting confused because this is what the book says and this is what these commentaries say and this is what I read in the concordance. And surely everyone else is looking this stuff up too, except for they weren't. They just weren't. They were doing what people have done throughout history, tried to prioritize their safety over everything else, and have been complicit in pretty much every harm that can be done. And if you want to look for the past, a couple millennia, you want to look at the sheer devastation on the planet, it's been Christians. I mean, some other people done some stuff, but they ain't done it like how the Christians have done it. Not at all. And I have finally come to the rock bottom of that awareness and said, hey, have you experienced anything that resembles what you believed was possible within a realm of Christianity based on the teachings of Christ and your relationship with people? No. And I will say, in all honesty, I've met Hindus, Muslims, atheists, and it's been largely in the American context. So they're kind of minorities in this context. So maybe that's why they're, seem to be reasonable human beings. But I've seen more Christ-like people that do not call themselves Christians than I've met Christ-like people who call themselves Christians. When you take kind of like a ratio, right? And what are you going to do? Percentage wise, I would say that calling yourself a Christian is no indicator that you're going to be remotely a decent person. You have just as good chance of meeting a decent person through any kind of walk of life. That part I've kind of finally had to accept. So what does that mean for me? Well, it means that I no longer, if I did think I was going to be influential um, in the sphere of Christianity, I no longer have any interest in being that. Um, I don't know what it's going to look like in terms of changing on the surface. I'll probably still give talks and I'll still talk about Jesus because I still respect those teachings, given the world that we live in, and given especially my love for Dr. King, who got a lot out of these teachings. I will continue to kind of pursue the principles of this tradition, and try to apply them practically in my life for myself. And I'm now just looking at this world not as something that's going to improve because I have not seen any indication that it can, but I will use it as soul practice. Basically, I'm going to use it, the world, as a way of just checking my own heart and seeing the person that I choose to be and looking at decisions that I choose to make, without any attachment to anybody else learning, being different or anything. I'm letting go of my grievances with a lot of folks. I mean, seeing those Mexican Trump supporters and that Mexican police officer and them just looking like they love even the proximity to whiteness. It was just the bottom. It was the bottom. I've seen it all my life, but seeing that in that context, it was just the bottom. They believe what they believe, and ever since I was a child, and I think one of the reasons why I never challenged my blackness, even though other people did, even black people, the reason why I never did was because I knew at an early age that people hated the world, and I'm not exaggerating. The world hates black people. Like the world can't stand black people, black Americans specifically. I'm just going to say black Americans because I've met Africans, and because my dad's country is technically Africa, I've been in a unique spot because I had people like Africans who think they're better than black Americans. Like almost everybody, you can just be honest. Almost everybody hates black Americans. They might like their music or their acting or some food or sports or something. But ultimately, if you look at the world, everybody hates black Americans, point blank. And people can say they don't, but they really do. And I don't even think people can help it. They want to be distant from us. They want the parts that they like, and then they want to throw the rest of us away. If they didn't, we wouldn't even be the place to win. We'd have universal health care. Republicans proposed universal health care decades ago. The only reason they didn't because they couldn't figure out a way to make it that everybody could get except for black people. You can look that up. Like if you look at most of the things that we can improve in our society, people don't Well, I know you love Black Americans. I'm talking about systemically. That Rob said I love Black Americans. I know you do, man. You've been awesome. I actually know Rob personally, but I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about systemically. Systemically, people in our society, they always need somebody to be on the bottom. And so they can have like a relative idea. I had a person tell me, he said straight up, he said, I don't know how you do it. I said, do what? And he said, walk around being black all day. That's what he said. He said, walk around being black all day. I was like, what? What do you mean? And he said, man, I couldn't do it. He said, you're a pretty decent guy. And I know people already think negative stuff about you because you're black. And I'm an asshole. And just because people see me, they don't think I'm one. And he said, and I could put on a suit and like change my life instantly. But you can be how you are. And you got to keep putting in effort. And he was still racist, but he at least was honest. So I've had, and that's just one person, but also hung out. I met this dude. He was a Satanist and a white supremacist, and he told me some stuff. And my own family, like, I remember when I was a little kid, one of the reasons why I stopped speaking Creole, which is my dad's language, was because my little brother couldn't speak it, and my dad was talking in front of us, talking about how I was lighter skinned than my brother, and he was saying like, but bragging about it, saying, yeah, his mom might be black, but look at his complexion. How stupid. But my dad said that, and then they were like, yeah, yeah. And there's the other one's mutpret, which is like very black. That's what they're saying about my brother. And I started crying. And then they were like, why are you crying? You're the lighter one. You should be happy. I'm like, you dumb fools, and that was my own family. And I'll tell you, I got a little bit of headache, so I'm kind of struggling in telling this story, probably because I don't want to tell this story. But when I was a little kid, I wanted to go swimming one time, and my black mom didn't want me to go out swimming, but she let my brother go out. And I said, Mom, why can't I go out? And then she said, because I don't want you getting all dark. And I said, what? And then she said, just stay in the house, boy. And I got upset. And I said, this is stupid. And then she let my brother go out to the pool and had me sitting in the house because she didn't want me to get darker. That is so ignorant. And I know she got taught that garbage though, right? And my mom was supposedly pro-black person at first, and she was teaching me this stuff unintentionally, as did a lot of other folks. And I just sat there being like, "What?" At first, I sat there. Then I said, "Okay." I started acting a fool, so I started pretending like I was swimming in the house, and I like turned on the pool. I mean, turned on the bathtub and got in the water, started splashing around, saying, "Yeah, I'm swimming, I'm swimming." And then I dove on the floor and started acting like I was swimming on the floor until my mom got so mad at me that she kicked me out of the house and let me go swimming. And then she said, before I went out, she said, "Go outside and get all black and ugly if you want to." That's a black woman that said that. That's sad. And that is America. And that is, unfortunately, one of the seeds of Christianity in America, because it has taught white supremacy like a mug. My church, black church, had a blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus. And I got in trouble at church because my Muslim cousins told me I was worshiping a white man. And then I came to church and said it. And then a guy said to me, I said, "Hey, how come we got to have a white Jesus in here?" He was from Palestine. And I started saying the stuff that my Muslim cousins told me. And they said, "What you trying to say? I know you ain't trying to say Jesus was black now." And then the guy said, "Jesus ain't no nigga. What is wrong with you? Why would God make a black man, have his son be a black man?" And then this black dude was all super loving some white Jesus. And I say all that to say that I am tired. I'm tired of trying to explain things that people can look up in books or look on the internet. I'm tired of people pretending um, and acting like they don't believe what they believe. I'm tired of people saying that they do believe in stuff, and then when they get time to show that they believe in it, they don't take that action. I'm just tired, but I don't blame them. I don't even blame me. It's just nature. I gave a lot of my life to trying to live into this. And I'm not giving up on living into it. I'm just giving up on outcomes. I'm giving up on results. I'm just going to keep doing what I do, loving how I love, trying to improve, trying to understand the deeper things of faith, trying to understand. I love like other religions, learning from other religions and stuff like that. But I always kind of like kept Christianity as my basis and looked at Christianity as like the foundation. And then everything else I looked at was kind of less like, just things that I would explore and try to understand. But I also, compared them to Christianity. And I'm just not doing that anymore either. I'm just going to live my life, have my experiences, love how I love, and just kind of see what happens. Living my life as an experiment, in unattachment, and just kind of living the spiritual principles and let myself be free. I look at recently I made a couple videos and things where I talked about spiritual abolition, and I had to realize that, like, when Harriet Tubman and all these other people left slavery, they left people they loved. They said, "Hey, man, I want to be free, but I can't be sitting here like this." I know for sure Sojourner Truth left some of her kids in slavery because they had passed a law. I think it was in New York or whatever it was, wherever she was. One of her youngest kids was not going to be a slave anymore. They were like slowly getting rid of slavery wherever she was, and she just dipped with her other kid. But her other kids, they weren't going to get out anyway, so she left them there a little longer so she could do some work in towards their liberation. But when you choose liberation, you choose freedom. It often does mean leaving people behind who are attached to their chains. And it's not because you hate them or whatever the case may be. It's just like they just can't, if they won't go, they just won't go. And I don't mean that in any kind of way. But when I look at this society and this world that I've been a part of for 50 years and conscious of for a considerable amount of time, because of traumas that forced me to pay attention. And I've been through my fair share of trauma, and some of which I don't even tell, and some I'm just starting to tell. But when I really look at my life and I look at the world, I have not seen it improve at all, really. And that makes some people feel bad. But you can tell, like, the backlash. If you look at it, if you were trying to do work, like, from a scientific perspective, you could put in all this effort. But if you push up against the wall and, like, you could put in a buttload of effort, but if nothing moves, it means no work is happening. And effectively, if you take our global society and all the progress that you made in one place was the reverse in another place. If you look at it as holistically, I think this world just doesn't move. I think people move, their hearts move. Maybe they create some relationships if they're fortunate enough to know how to identify people that they want to spend time with and create things with. And there can be a lot of beautiful things here. But for the most part, I think, at least in my experience, hasn't moved much. I'm hearing the same stuff that I heard when I was a kid. Now it's all out in the open. Even worse, with these fools believing if they can bring Jesus back with a war and whatever crazy things they believe. All of those things, when I look at it today, is not different than when I was a little kid. It's more people out there saying it again, being emboldened, and a lot of other things that are ugly that are coming up. I might be pleasantly surprised and find out tomorrow that there's going to be a big shift happen. But you see the stuff with, like, even like this Epstein files and this pedophilia crap. Like, people act like that crap's new. Man, those same types of dudes were raping black women. That's why I got some light skin and color in my body because of rape. So, I mean, basically, that it hasn't changed. It literally hasn't changed. But that doesn't mean I got to be, angry or grieving or whatever. Just like the video I made a couple of days ago about what's worth investing your emotion in. It's just not worth investing my emotion in and being angry anymore about this stuff. I was angry because I really hoped and believed that things could be better. And so I invested that energy into hoping that things would be better. But that just hasn't been my experience. And I know some people might want to try to cheer me up or something like that. I'm not even sad anymore because that's also an emotional investment I don't want to put into some of the stuff. I'm just going to choose to put my energy towards being creative, towards being with people who I love and people who love me, and just trying to um, really explore the world a little bit differently. I'm in a tender space because of the deaths that have happened in my life recently. So I'm hyper aware that, like they say in the church, tomorrow's not promised. And because it's not, I want to be really intentional about what I do with my time and what I do with my energy and who I do whatever I do with. And so, because there's so many people that in this landscape that are very comfortable with not progressing, and I'm just not one of them. I'm just withdrawing myself. So that's my liberation and that's my freedom. It means different things to different folks. Some of this is, like I said, has been inspired by a comment that somebody made the other day about why have they just said they don't want to stop other people from hitting their rock bottom. And so I've hit mine. I think it's time. I'm grateful. Rock bottom liberation is a real thing for me. And doesn't mean I'm not going to speak what I think or feel. Like I said before, it's just I'm not attached to any outcome. And I'm going to just see what that looks like. So I appreciate whoever watches this. And yeah, I guess that's it. This has all been an experiment. When I first started making these videos, I felt like if I made a video at first, I felt like it was almost like a failure because I wanted to write and finish the writing. And that's my preference of communication, like I said recently. And not being able to fully get, articulate some of the things that I was wanting to write was kind of getting to me a little bit. But then I started making these videos, and what I found from making the videos without having the time to like kind of look at it and reflect and stuff like that is it's really what's in my heart at the moment is what's coming out. And I'm learning from it. I'm learning from just allowing. The Bible says that Jesus said, "Don't think about what you're going to say," and then that self same hour, the Holy Spirit will speak for you. And I'm not going so far as to say that what I'm saying is the Holy Spirit. But what I am saying is, I'm not thinking about what I say, and whatever I say is what I'm saying. And I'm learning from what's emerging from my heart, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so that's where I am. And maybe it'll change tomorrow. Maybe it'll change a few days from now. Maybe I'll go to sleep and Jesus will come down from the clouds and smack me upside the head and say, "Hey, these fools were right. I need them to bomb people so I can come back," and then I'll say, "Oops, my bad." And I'll make a new video. But where I am right now is just like, hey, I gave it a good shot. I got saved and sanctified at 6 years old. I'm 50 now. 44 years is a good run. So I appreciate you, Rob, for being up here, and whoever sees this next. I appreciate you for wherever you are in your journey, and I'm gonna respect people where they're on their journey. These Mexican folks up the street want to be Trump supporters. That's their prerogative. I cannot no longer invest my energy in wishing that people would just wake up, love themselves, and love other people. Because there just hasn't been my experience that that's what people do. People look out for themselves, generally speaking. Um, they want to be white, generally speaking, even if they don't want to admit it. And I ain't even talked about the Asians. I was a Mandarin language analyst. I hung around a lot of Chinese people for a significant point in my life too. I'm gonna tell you, if it's a group, I'm the only person. I'm not trying to brag about myself. Just a little bit of caveat. I'm the only person I know in my life that has been spent significant time around other cultures and been in intimate encounters and relations with people from other cultures to the extent I've had. I like literally used to speak Mandarin fluently. It's kind of mama hoo hoo right now because of time and not being around it, even though I was speaking Chinese to some people just a couple of days ago. I've literally been in a place where it was 500 Chinese people and me. And they were just like, "Yo, how are you doing this? Like, how are you the only one? You're not only are you," and Chinese people don't have problems saying stuff. They're like, "Not only are you American, but you're black." How are you hanging out with us? And then they found out, and you speak Mandarin, what is happening right now? And I hung out with them and they told me a lot of interesting things too. Some deeply spiritual things. So I was hanging out with 500 Chinese Buddhists. Um, and some stuff that you would be like, whoa, did anybody tell you you probably shouldn't say this to people? I've been around Latinos because of family, but also friends. I was used to be real cool with this Mexican dude, and I hung out with him and stayed in an apartment with him and his family, like 25 Mexicans in a 2-bedroom apartment laying on the floor. You know what I mean? And eating burritos with lima beans in it and, and string beans. I'm telling you, I've been around a crew of people. I've been with like super redneck white people in Mississippi, and being the only black person. I used to work in a hardware store. It was 81 people on the floor, and one of them was black. 'Twas me. And I heard mad racist stuff while somebody came to my job on Martin Luther King Day wearing a T-shirt that said "Happy Nigger Day," and then I asked for a break, and my boss was like, and I had to deal with this. I was their customer service person, and they were being quite racist, and I navigated that based on some Martin Luther Kingian type stuff, and then asked for a break. And then my boss said, "What you need a break for?" And I said, "Well, did you see that person wearing that Happy Nigger Day shirt? It took a lot out of me not to cuss them out and to just, keep my integrity and still, express myself." And then she said, "Well, you ain't a nigga, is you?" So I don't even know what she meant by that. And I'm rambling, but I'm telling you all this because the things I'm saying are coming from a place of substance. I'm not saying it because I just like read some books. I'm not saying it because I ain't try. I'm not saying it because I didn't put myself in a situation. Like I told you in some past videos and writing that I had, I got literally got beat up by a busload of people, men and women, and they threw me in a ditch. And I don't even hate those fools. And I don't even know anybody else that's been through the crap I've been through and and more. And it's always the only thing that kept me through all of it was my faith in Jesus. Honest to God. I was just like, yo, dude, I need you, bro. And I stuck with it all these years. And I'm not giving that up. But good Lord, his followers. My God. So, and I had to really live into what's been my experience. My experience is Christianity in America is trash. Like even when you take all the nice ones and all the bad ones and put them up in a ball, they all here now. What we see right now is all of us together. This is the collective. This is the fruit of us being us. Let's see. Humanity is doomed on this planet if we don't grow up morally. Absolutely, Rob. Yeah, that's what I feel too. And it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, if people think I'm being silly, literally look at where we are. This is where we brought the world up to this point. Wars, pedophile rings, some really bad person as president. I mean, just this is what we did, and I'm telling me too. This is what we did. This is what we've created based on the things that we say we believe in, based on having the Constitution, the government we have, being fake Christians. All of this is what we got. And I for one can say, hey, this isn't working. Took me 44 years, but this isn't working. So sayonara suckers when it comes to this. Um, I just this is where I am, and it's like funny on one side, um, and sad on another side, but I'm also very curious. I'm very curious because at the end of the day, the only reason I'm still a Christian is because of Christ in my heart. It's not been ever because of the institutions. It's never been because of people who treated me well in those institutions. It's never been that. It's always been the internal relationship. Um, so I'm just going to give that my priority and see what else happens. And I'm not worried about, for those of y'all, I'm not worried about going to heaven and all that other crap too, because that's just the way it's been used. At least is people been like getting the carrot dangled in front of them, telling you don't want to go to hell, you want to go to heaven, don't you? Well, do this or do that. I mean, some of my dumbass friends, that's all they keep talking about. Well, I gotta go for this. I gotta support Trump because I want Jesus to accept me. I literally talk to fools who say that they just want to be accepted by Jesus and they got to follow Trump because of that. I know a black lesbian woman who's been trying to not be a lesbian because I guess she decided to give her life to Jesus and she voted for Trump. Because now it's like, what? She voted for Trump because she was just like, I'm evangelical now. I gotta vote for Trump. You know what I mean? So I'm telling you, I've done my work. So if anybody's got any criticism of me, you know what you can do. Because I done my work and I got an F. So I quit. So anyway, I love everybody. Um, and I'm just putting this out here because I feel like more of us had to just be like, just face what's in front of us. We can't keep being in denial. Y'all can. I'm not going to be in denial. So whatever messiness this has to be for me to clear myself from any of this, whatever writing, whatever the consequences. Um, I count everything in this world, just like Paul said, I count it all as loss, you know? So it is what it is. And, I guess I'll stop rambling now. And if there's anything coherent to this, may it bless you. And if it isn't, toss it. And I wish everyone well. Now I'm going to continue to read Henry Nouwen, The Wounded Healer. I recommend that book to other people because the next talk I give is going not on this on this platform, but the next talk I give in public is going to be on the Wounded Healer, and I'm reading that, and that's probably contributed to how I'm expressing myself. I should have probably said that earlier because he wrote that at a time where people were like afraid of nuclear war, and he talked about the apathy that people have and all that stuff, and he could have written it yesterday. So I've been reading Henry Nouwen or Henry Nouwen, however you pronounce it. And that's also been informing me. So just to put that out there. So thanks for sticking around for the ramble. If Robert, and I don't know what you call you, Robert, Rob, thanks for sticking around, and anyone else. This is a journey, and I'm about my own liberation. I'm accepting it for myself. And yeah, we'll see what liberation looks like. Peace. Thanks for being here.